Hi students, welcome to PhD Jobs and Admission. This is Gauri. So in today's session, I am going to teach you about Pondicherry University's PhD Entrance Test Research Methodology subject. Okay, so in today's session, we are going to see PhD Entrance Tests Research Methodologies PYQs of the year 2018. Okay, so students, in today's session, I'll clear some of the concepts of research methodology relevant to these PYQs in this session. Okay, and as well you will get the clarity about it, exactly what type of questions you will be getting asked in the research methodology section of the PhD entrance test. Okay, so students, most of the PYQs are really going to be asked repetitively in each year. That's why after solving these PYQs, all of your doubts will get clear. All of you students can solve more of an MCQs repetitively, and it will be a practice for all of you. And as well, most of the MCQs you will get as it is in this year by solving these PYQs. Okay, so now let us begin with this session. So students, as you know that there is PhD entrance test at Pondicherry University, right? And in this PhD entrance test there are two sections. One section is for research methodology and another section is for subject concerned. Okay, so on research methodology they will ask you 50% MCQs, and on concerned subject they will ask you 50% MCQs. So all of the students have to score 50% marks so that they can qualify PhD entrance test. So to qualify the PhD entrance test, we provide you research methodology complete course. By the use of this complete course, all the students guaranteed can score 50% marks in research methodology itself, and after that they can guaranteed qualify the PhD entrance test. In this complete course, we provide full syllabus video lectures under which theories and MCQ lectures both are available. We provide full syllabus notes and mock tests. We have 10 mock tests like this. Each mock test contains 40 MCQs. That's overall all the students can solve 400 MCQs by using mock tests. By solving the mock tests, all the students can see how much they have prepared for the entrance test and how much preparation they are need to do. In this, we provide you more than 1500 MCQs revision PDF. By the use of this revision PDF, all the students can revise all the topics in a single PDF, and that's why guaranteed they will get 80% MCQs from this PDF only out of 100% MCQs in the research methodology section of the PhD entrance test. And the study material which will be available for all the students will be in both the languages, that is Hindi and English. So students, if you want to buy this course, then you can either download the Global Online app from the Play Store. For that, I have given the link in the description box of this video, or else you can contact me through these WhatsApp numbers. The course fees are only $699. In this low fees, we provide guaranteed selection to all the candidates. Okay, so students, this research methodology complete course is nothing but a research methodology revision package to all the students, and by the use of this revision package, all the students can guaranteed qualify the PhD entrance test, and as well can guaranteed score more marks in interview session also. Okay, now let us begin. If we have very large sample size, okay, we can afford to discard which of the following assumptions of ANOVA whenever there is a large sample size. Okay, so in that situation, from these options, which are the options of relevant to ANOVA that we assume whenever we take the ANOVA as a statistical test, then which of these options can we afford to discard if the larger size of the sample size? Okay, the samples are drawn from normally distributed populations. Each population has the same variance. Samples are independent, none of these. So students, as we know that ANOVA is what? A parametric test. Parametric test means there are lot of assumptions, and whenever we fulfill all of these assumptions, then only we can do the ANOVA. ANOVA is nothing but what? Analysis of variance, right? So by using this statistical test, we can compare the means of more than two groups, right? Okay, So students, the most important assumption of ANOVA is that the data which is present, okay, all the data set should be normally distributed. This is one of the most important assumption of ANOVA. Okay, and that's why whenever there is a larger sample size, then in that situation this assumption of normal related, the samples are symmetrical basically, or at least their shape is similar in shape basically. Okay, but in this situation, you know, the normally distribution of the data set within the population is getting violated, and that's why whenever there is a larger sample size, then in that situation we can afford, okay, to discard this assumption of samples are drawn from normally distributed populations in ANOVA. Okay, that's why here your correct answer should be what? 1. All of you getting? And the two other options, like each population has the same variance, then samples are independent. Okay, these assumptions we can mate. Okay, whenever there is a larger sample size and we want to do ANOVA, we can mate these assumptions, but we can't mate this assumption. Basically this assumptions is getting what? Violated, because there is very large amount of sample size, and that's why we can't assume that, okay, there is a normally distribution of the population. Are you getting? That's why here your correct answer should be what? 1. Okay, we can afford to discard this assumption. It is better to discard this assumption, right? Because it is going to be violated. All of you getting? That's why this is your correct answer. With a lower significance level, the probability not rejecting a false null hypothesis is, okay, so students, if there is a lower significance level is denoted by alpha. So in that situation, the probability of not rejecting a false null hypothesis is what? Whether it will decrease or increase or remains unaffected or none of these. Not rejecting means what? You are accepting, right? So the probability of accepting false null hypothesis. Okay, so students, whenever there is lower significance level, then in that situation the probability of not rejecting a false null hypothesis, which is called as what? Type 2 error. Okay, type 2 error in the hypothesis testing. So basically this will increases. Okay, because lower significance level means that what? A criteria for rejecting null hypothesis, okay, is more stringent. Stringent means it will be more difficult, okay, and making it less likely to reject false null hypothesis. So students, lower significance level means what? There is a criteria for rejecting null hypothesis will be more difficult for us, okay, and that's why it makes us less likely to reject this false null hypothesis. So that's why we are going to mostly accepting this false null hypothesis, and this is nothing but what? Type 2 error. So whenever there is a lower significance level, then obviously this probability of making type 2 error will obviously what? Increases, because within the lower significance level, okay, it will be more difficult for us to reject this null hypothesis. Okay, are you getting? And that's why the probability of accepting this false null hypothesis automatically increases, as we have seen in earlier videos about type 2 error and type 1 error. Okay, because within the hypothesis these two errors occur. Type 2 error means what? Whenever the null hypothesis is false but still we accept it, then type 2 errors occur. And whenever there is a null hypothesis and this is true but still we reject it, then in that situation what? Type 1 error occurs. Okay, all of you getting, students? But here what they asked you, there is a lower significance level, and whenever there is a lower significance level, then in that situation it will be very difficult for all of us, okay, to reject this false null hypothesis. And that's why we are going to what? Accept this false null hypothesis. And whenever we accept this false null hypothesis, then type 2 error occurs. and the probability of occurring this error automatically increases. So here your answer should be what? 2, that is what? Increases. Okay. So students, apart from this, we provide Pondicherry University PhD Entrance Test Paper 2 study material as well. By the use of this study material, all the students can guaranteed score more marks in concerned subject and they can qualify the PhD Entrance Test. In this study material, we provide full syllabus notes and MCQs to all the students. Within the MCQ section, we provide most expected MCQs and PYQs. By the use of these MCQs and PYQs, all the students can guaranteed score more marks in paper 2. So the subjects that I have shown on this screen, on all of these subjects we have currently paper 2 study material available. If you want study material for any other subject, you can ask me in the comment box. Okay, the fees for paper 2 study material are only 999 and in this low fees we provide guaranteed selection to all the students. So students, if you want to join our courses, you can contact me through these WhatsApp numbers only. Okay, so this paper 2 study material will help you in qualifying the entrance test sessions also, because in the interview sessions also examiners and will ask you questions basically about we have covered in this paper 2 study material, and that's why with the help of this study material all the students can guaranteed qualify the interview session also. Okay, if a study material, if a study is reliable, this means that whenever the study is reliable, then what is the meaning of that? The measures devised for concepts are stable and provide more or less same data or results on different occasions. The methods are stated clearly enough for the research to be replicated. The findings can be generalized to other social settings. It was conducted by a reputable researcher who can be trusted. So students, reliable means what? Trustworthy. So whenever a particular study is trustworthy, it means that the results are stable always in different occasions. Whenever we do that study in different occasions, okay, then after doing the study in different occasions we get the similar results. So it means that that study is reliable. It means what? It means that the measures that we devised for means what? For example, any kind of instruments. So that instrument is stable because it is giving you the stable results in every occasion whenever you do the study. So the meaning of this is this: the measures devised for concepts are stable and it provide more occasions. So this means what? Study is reliable. That's why here your correct answer should be what? 1. Random sampling is helpful as it is. So now students, why random sampling is helpful? Why we do it? A well-defined method of data collection, because it is a well-defined method of data collection. It is free from personal biases, reasonably accurate and reasonably representative of the population, all of these. So students, within the random sampling technique, what we do, we randomly select the participants for our study. That's why every participant within the population has the equal chances to participate in the study. That's why there is no any biases. There is no any biases, right? As well as we are going to randomly select the sample from the target population, it means that it will be reasonably accurate. As well, whatever samples we select from the population will be the representative of the population, right? Because there will be the more probability that the sample will be more representative of the population. So that random sampling is very helpful because it is a well defined method of data collection. As well, it is free from personal biases. As well, it is reasonably accurate and reasonably representative of the population. So that your correct answer over here should be what? All of these. Okay, the target population for a research has clearly distinguishable subpopulations. this ideal method of sampling for such a population is? Now the target population is there for a research and it has clearly distinguishable subpopulations. Subpopulations means what? Whenever there is a target population and we are going to do the subgroups of that population. Okay, so this is the population and you do what? Subgroups of that population. So each subgroup is called as what? Subpopulation, or in sampling method technique it is called as what? Strata. Okay, so this ideal method of sampling for such a population is called as what? Simple random sampling, convenience sampling, judgment sampling, stratified random sampling. So students, this kind of a sampling technique for such a population is called as stratified random sampling, because in this sampling technique we have the target population and we make the subgroups of that population. Okay, and each subgroup is called as what? Strata. So from each strata, okay, what you do? You randomly select the samples. Okay, so from this strata you randomly select some samples, from this you select randomly samples, from this. So this is nothing but what? A stratified random sampling. Okay, and that's from the target population. Here you can see there is distinguishable subpopulations as well, right? That's why this is nothing but what? Stratified random sampling. And whenever you do this random sampling technique from each strata, then you make up a whole group of these samples that you have selected randomly, and then you take all of these samples for your study. Okay, this is so simple. Within the simple random sampling, you have a target population, and from target population itself you randomly select the sample. This is so simple. In convenience sampling, according to the researcher's convenience, he or she select the sample for his or her study. Okay, for example, if a researcher goes to the college on Tuesday, so on that day whatever students there will be available in the college, okay, so those students he or she will get participated in his or her study. He won't think about who is absent, okay, who will be there in next day in the college. He won't think about it, because according to his or her convenience he is going to select the students who are there in the college on that day itself. Okay, so this is called as what? Convenience sampling. Within the judgment sampling, that we also call it as purposive sampling. So basically researcher has a somehow purpose towards the sample, and because of that specific purpose he is going to select that specific sample for his study. Okay, and if you see all of these three options, then you will understand that there is no any kind of a distinguishable subpopulation from the target population. It will be available in only stratified random sampling. That's why here your correct answer should be what? 4. If the population proportion is unknown, the standard error of proportion is estimated by the formula where n is sample size, p is the probability of success, q is the probability of failure. So students, whenever there is a population proportion and we don't know the value of that population proportion, it is basically unknown. So in that situation, whenever we want to calculate the standard error of proportion, then what is the formula for that standard error of proportion? Whether it is square root npq, square root pq, square root np 1 minus q, square root pq upon n. So students, whenever you want to calculate this, then the formula for this is what? Square root pq upon n. Okay, so where n is the sample size, p is the probability of success, and q is the probability of failure. And in this situation, p plus q is equal to what? 1. Okay, that's why here your correct answer should be what? 4. So remember this formula for standard error of proportion. Okay, whenever population proportion is unknown. Which of the following is true? Now, which of the following is true? The sampling error becomes progressively larger the larger the sample size. Sampling error becomes progressively smaller the smaller the sample size. the sampling error is unrelated to sample size. The sampling error becomes progressively larger the smaller the sample size. So students, here they have given you different statements relevant to what? Sampling error and sample size. That's why obviously there will be some relationship between sampling error and sample size. Okay, so what is that? So students, whenever you want to calculate the sampling error, then you need to what? You need to difference out. You need to subtract the population mean, okay, minus you need to do the sample mean. So what you need to do? You need to subtract the sample mean from the population mean. So this is nothing but what? Sampling error. And this sampling error occurs because of this difference. Okay, and that's why students, whenever there is very large amount of sample size, then in that situation obviously, you know, there would be minimum sampling error, and that's why whenever you are going to, you know, large the sample size, then progressively the amount of sampling error becomes smaller. Okay, that's why here your correct answer should be what? 2. The sampling error becomes progressively smaller the larger the sample size, because whenever you choose the larger sample size, then in that situation, you know, the difference between population mean and sample mean is going to minimize somehow, because the sample size is very large. There won't be any difference between population and sample. Okay, that's why students, the sampling error in this situation is going to become smaller. Okay, if level of significance, that is value of alpha, is 0.05 for a particular hypothesis test, we are saying that whenever there is a specific hypothesis test and the level of significance, that is the value of alpha, is 0.05, then in that situation what we are going to say? 5% is the minimum standard for acceptable probability. 5% is the risk we are taking of rejecting a true null hypothesis. 5% is the risk we are taking of not rejecting a false null hypothesis, none of these. So students, as we have seen earlier in this session only about level of significance, right? So students, level of significance means what? It is going to tell you exactly the probability, okay, whether, you know, you are going to reject the null hypothesis or you are going to accept the null hypothesis. Whenever this amount of level of significance becomes very small, then in that situation you are going to reject this null hypothesis and you are going to accept the alternative hypothesis. But now here the level of significance amount is what? 0.05. So it means that there is 5% risk, okay, we are taking of rejecting the true null hypothesis. Okay, so this means that there is 5% chance of making type 1 error which occurs when we reject true null hypothesis. Okay, so there is a 5% risk that we are taking of rejecting this true null hypothesis. This means this level of significance is equal to 0.05. That's why here your correct answer should be what? 2. Okay. What is a research design? Now what is research design? A way of conducting research that is not grounded in theory. A framework that outlines the way a researcher is going to collect data at every stage of the research and analysis of data. The style in which you present your research findings, example a graph, the choice between using qualitative or quantitative methods. Okay, so students, research design is nothing but a conceptual framework. Okay, it means that this is the outline of your overall research process. So research design is going to give you the idea exactly what type of research methods you are going to use in your whole research process. So here you are going to say exactly what type of data collection methods and what type of data analysis methods you are going to use in your whole research process. That's why here your correct answer should be 2, because research design is nothing but a framework that outlines a way a researcher is going to collect data at every stage of the research and analysis of data. Okay, which of the following is not a measure of dispersion? So now from these options, which is the option which is not a measure of dispersion, whether it is mean deviation, variance, standard deviation, mode. So measure of dispersion means what? A measurement of how your data point, okay, is spreaded in a whole data set. Okay, so if you see all of these options, then you will understand there is only one option which is not a measure of dispersion, and it is nothing but what? Mode, because mode is a measurement of central tendency. Okay, mode means what? The data point which has more frequency, okay, than other data points in the whole data set. Okay, that's why mode basically represents the central position data in the whole data set, and that's why this is nothing but a measure of central tendency, not a measure of dispersion. Mean deviation, variance, standard deviation, all of these are the measures of dispersion. Mean deviation is calculated by taking average of absolute difference between each data point and mean of data set. Okay, so basically whenever you want to calculate mean deviation, then it should be calculated by taking average of absolute difference between each data point and mean of data set. Mean of data set. Okay, so basically it measures how far on average each data point is from mean actually. So what you are going to do in this mean deviation is that basically you have the data set 1 to 10, and here it's basically mean should be what? 5. Okay, so from 5, okay, there are data points like 5 1, 5 2. So you are going to do this, 1 minus 5, 2 minus 5, then 3 minus 5, 4 minus 5, and all of these values whatever you will get, you are going to do the average of all of these values, and the average value of this will be what? Mean deviation. All of you getting? Variance is what? Variance is nothing but what? How your data points are spread out, okay, from its mean value. Are you getting? And variance is nothing but what? Square of standard deviation. Whenever you do the square of standard deviation, you will get the value of variance. Now what is standard deviation? Standard deviation again is what? The measure of dispersion, and it is calculated by taking square root of average of squared difference between each data point and mean of data set. Okay, basically whatever you have did here, 1 minus 5, 2 minus 3, 3 minus 5, you are going to do the squares of this. Okay, whenever you do the squares of this and you take the average of all of these, and after getting the average you are going to do the square root of that average. So that square root is nothing but what? Standard deviation. And standard deviation basically gives you the measurement of how spread out your data points are from the mean. Okay, that's why whenever you want to calculate the standard deviation, you are going to do the square root of variance. Okay, that's why here your correct answer should be what? 4. So students, thank you for watching this session. I hope all of you understood everything whatever I have discussed with you in all all the concepts relevant to research methodology in this session. But if you have any doubts in any kind of a concept, you can ask me in the comment box.